Welcome back, girls. In this video, I'm going to teach you about multiplying pure imaginary numbers and then also the start of complex numbers, adding and subtracting them, along with multiplying them. So let's take a look at first just multiplying pure imaginary numbers with this first example. Let's say you were trying to simplify negative 5i times positive 3i. All you have to do is treat it like a variable. Let's say you were thinking back to if you were multiplying negative 5x by positive 3x, we know that gets you negative 15x squared. You multiply the negative 5 by the 3, same thing here to get negative 15, and x times x makes x squared. Same thing, I times I makes I squared, but like we learned, I squared you always have to replace and simplify that down to negative 1. So now you have to multiply negative 15 by negative 1 to get your final answer, positive 15. Now, if you're looking at multiplying negative roots, that's a little more complicated, but it should be similar to what we did in the last problem. You're just going to simplify each of these separately first. So make your factor tree for each one. We have negative 1 and 6, and then 6 can break down into 3 times 2, which are prime numbers. Negative 15 is negative 1 times 15, which is 5 times 3. Once you have your factor trees, we know that our negative 1 has to come out because that's going to make an I. And now we're going to look for any common factors, and they can even be in common between these two factor trees. Like, for example, they both have a 3 in them. So I'm going to use that as a pair. This 2 is by itself, this 5 is by itself. Okay, so grouping these up, I see 2 negative 1, so I'm going to put that as negative 1 squared. I see 2 3s, so I'm going to write that as 3 squared. I have a 2 by itself, and I have a 5 by itself. Anything with a squared under a square root can cancel out. So that leaves us with negative 1 times 3 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 5. Negative 1 times 3 makes negative 3. Square root 2 times square root 5 makes the square root of 10. So my final answer is negative 3 square root of 10. You have to be careful on these, girls, because if you multiply these together first, a negative times a negative, that's going to make a positive, whatever 6 times 15 is. And then you're going to lose the negative part from the I. Since both of these are imaginary, it's like you're having I times I, which makes I squared, or negative 1. So that negative has to be part of your answer. You have to make sure that whenever you see a negative in the root, you're either ending up with a negative on the outside or an I on the outside. We know I times I makes I squared, or negative 1 in this case, since there were 2 negatives under the root. Okay, now I want you guys to try some of those on your own. Here are the answers to those practice problems, and then next we're going to look at complex numbers, which are pretty much the same thing, except, like I said earlier, if you have an imaginary number added or subtracted with a real number, that's what makes a complex number. So like 5 minus 7i here in this example, 2 plus 4i, 4 minus 8i, those are all examples of complex numbers. It has the real number part, the imaginary number part. If you're adding complex numbers together or subtracting them, just treat them like variables. You add the real number parts, 5 plus 2 to get 7. You add the imaginary number parts, negative 7i plus 4i gets you negative 3i. Now, if you're subtracting, you just have to remember that you're subtracting both terms, so it might help you to distribute that negative sign first. And then you do the same thing we did before, combine the real number parts, combine the imaginary number parts, and you'll get your final answer. Go ahead and try some of those by yourself. Here are the final answers for those two. And that's where we're going to leave off today. We have some more examples of multiplying and then some examples of dividing in the next video when you come back. Bye, guys.